All right, guys, we're back again. Dynamic Man Podcast, episode 61. What is up, guys? What is up? Hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are enjoying your Thursday. Just got back from the gym. Hold on 1 second. Just posting this on X. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are enjoying Swole season. This is the season to get swole. Okay, so if you guys are not hitting the gym, hit the gym. I gotta say, I'm back at it. I'm back at it. Finally, took about a month to get settled in here over the holidays, etc. And I got all sorted. So I'm enjoying some heavy workouts, and by this summer, we should be at the ideal range right now. I'm literally just you can always put on a little bit more muscle. I'm just 10 pounds overweight. If I lose those 10 pounds, I'm going to be solid territory. So that's what we're doing right now. We're doing a little recomp. We call it a little recomp. But anyway, guys, that's why I'm late, because I had to get myself together. All right, let's go into this topic real quick. Let's tackle this. We don't really need more than 15 minutes anyway. So let's tackle this topic. Should you become friends with a woman first? Now, this is one of those things that if you're exposed to any manosphere thinking, you're gonna know you shouldn't become friends with a woman. Don't become friends with a woman. And this is mostly true, by the way. This is mostly true. That's why it's conventional wisdom in the manosphere. But I want to talk about the reasons for this and also the exceptions. And I want to talk about why it's so pervasive. Because if you're a guy who has not been exposed to any kind of red pill thinking, you are going to probably think that, well, why shouldn't I become friends with a woman first? I had this call with a client the other day, actually. And he's a guy, he's just top of his game in the sense that super wealthy. He's a young guy too, early 20s, super wealthy, looks maxed, you know what I mean? Gets a lot of attention from some bombshell girls, Miami area. So, do the math, right? And yet this guy bombing with women. And the reason he's bombing with women is he's got this very, very deep nice guy program in his mind. It's the internal part of him hasn't caught up to the external. And one of the things, he fumbled this opportunity with a woman recently. And this woman was she wanted him big time. Right? And what did he do? He tried to take things really slow. He's getting her flowers. And he's he said he wanted to make sure that she knew that he was, serious about her first. He wanted her to know that he cared about her and, that he, before they did anything. So he was allowing all these platonic interactions to happen. I told him man, this is totally ass backwards. It's just not how it works. It's not how it works. The Christian guys who've watched my show, a few months ago, it was probably back in October, November, I was really hammering on this. In the Christian community, the serious Christian community, a lot of guys are still approaching women with a very serious intentions, trying to convey to these women that, they have serious intentions for her, and that, they're not going to transgress in any way. They're waiting for marriage and blah, 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 blah. And you know what women feel? I'm not going to say think, because they might say to themselves, wow, he's a great guy. But how do they feel? They're going to feel this guy's gay. That's what they're going to feel. Now, they might not it might not be that explicit, but they're not going to feel anything for him. And the reason for this is because sexual tension is the engine of a relationship. That's why, even though I've kind of softened my position around this as time's gone on, um, like, because understand how you want to be married to someone who you enjoy spending time with. So when people say I married my best friend, I used to be like, ah, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear that shit. But I get it, in the sense that it is true that you want to have the ability to enjoy spending time with someone. Like, I enjoy spending time with my wife. Like, from a vantage point, I mean, I think this gets to be semantic, but is she my best friend? Sure. I mean, I don't think of her like a friend, though. Think of her as my wife. But if you want to like really distill it in terms of things, the things that we do together, how we're able to share things with each other and talk, yeah, we are best friends. You know, if you don't enjoy spending time with someone, don't marry them, right? But if that's all we were, like the reason I don't think of her like a best friend is because I want to fuck her. You understand? I want to fuck her. I don't want to fuck my friends. My guy friends, I'm not interested in that. There's a different energy between us. That's what I think of as friendship. Even the handful of female friends I have, and I don't really try to make female friends for the record anymore, because of the sexual tension typically in the background. Um, you know, it would not be the same degree. Like, I have sexual chemistry with my wife. I want to have sex with her. I've wanted to have sex with her since the beginning I met her. Okay. And that was a good thing. That was a good thing because that made her feel desired. And that made her want to have sex with me, right? Among other things that I brought to the table. So the point here is that you don't want to ever try to be friends with a woman first. Because if you try to be friends with a woman first, you're leading with comfort. Understand? You're leading with comfort and not desire. And in order for it's much easier to add comfort onto desire than it is to add desire onto comfort. And the reason for that is the framing. We get into the whole idea of first impressions. First impressions make a serious impact. Now, can you change a first impression? I would say usually you can. It's a lot of work. You don't usually have the luxury of the time to do it in life. There are situations. I will give you an example of when you might be able to go from comfort to desire, right? But typically, it's desire to comfort. You always want to position yourself with women as the guy who likes to fuck. Even if you are restrained because of your religious beliefs or whatever, your morals, she's still got to feel that you want it. And I think a lot of times guys don't feel that way. And or they suppress that part of themselves because they're too much in their headspace, or they're it's just not healthy. I really don't think it's healthy. I'm a dating relationship coach, so I'm going to operate in this framework. I want men and women to get together and want to be with each other, and the bedrock of what makes men and women work well together is sexual attraction. Okay. Then you also have the elements of respect, et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is that if you're not creating desire, if you're not a desirable person, then you can pretend that, oh, I just like the opposite sex. I like women. I care about women. But if you actually want them, but you keep sending off castrated signals to them, then you're not going to get them. And then you're going to resent them. And that's a lot of this stuff. A lot of the reason that the sexes have issues with each other in many, 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 many ways is sexual resentment. Okay. A lot of men are resentful that women do not women have all these options and they don't choose them, and the women are resentful because the guys that they actually want don't, just pump and dump them or use them or, play with them, right? A lot of resentment between the sexes. And those women, because they have been, quote unquote, pumped and dumped or, taken for granted by these guys that they maybe that then they get offended when other guys, as a defense mechanism, they get offended when other guys approach them. So you can see how this like resentment cycle really starts to build. You have to love women in order to improve that. But you also have to be desirable to women. If you're not a desirable person, if the behavior that you emanate is not desirable, then it's not complete. It's not complete, right? It's like if you have nice things to say about people, but you're weak, no one cares. So you have to be powerful and then kind in order for what you say to matter. That's the way it is with men. And what we have right now is a lot of guys without power who are either nice or resentful, right? Or guys with power who are not nice, right? That's the problem. Okay, so to move it from the abstraction back to this, you don't want to try to become friends with a woman first because you are framing yourself in your mind as someone who doesn't want to sleep with her. Or conversely, that she doesn't, will always have as an option, so she doesn't need to invest in. And that's an important part here. If a woman thinks that you're really into her, then first off, you're just less interesting. You're less exciting. She's already kind of won. She already has the conquest. Because remember, women care more about the attention typically than the sex itself. It's the men who want the sex. The women want the attention. So if you're really, really into a woman, she doesn't need to have sex with you. Okay. Now, are there situations when when it makes sense to become friends with a woman first before you make a move on her? I don't know that I would say so. There's two variables here. The first is, are you running some kind of social circle game? If you're running a kind of social circle game, then you might become friends with her first, but it's not really, you're not like good friends with her first. And by the way, you being friends with her is almost like a feint. Like it's not actually what you're doing. What you're doing is you're using, the friendship, and you're telling her that you're friends, but you're flirting with her. So what you're doing is actually sending mixed signals to her. You are giving yourself cover to flirt a lot by saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that we're friends. I'm so glad that we're friends." But then you're like teasing her or whatever. That makes a woman lower her guard, right? And also she's more like, well, what is this guy? What's he doing? So that doesn't really count. In terms of real friendships with women, should you become friends with her first? Should you make her feel, the real thing is that it happens sometimes incidentally, because but this is mostly only when you're very young. Okay? This is what I want to emphasize. If you have like a group of girlfriends and you have a group of guy friends and you guys are hanging out together and you're doing things together, that's very common in high school and college, then you may spend a lot of time around each other and you may enjoy spending time with each other, and it may naturally evolve. Maybe no one makes a move at first, but there's kind of like dancing around it with each other. But eventually, so you guys are friends, but she's into you and maybe you're into her. But that's not a should you become. That's just something that happens, and it really only happens, I would say frankly as like a teenager, maybe early 20s. After that point, it becomes less and less of a, it becomes less and less of a thing. It can still happen, it can carry over, but the thing is you're typically not going to have that kind of group thing. Maybe it could happen at a work environment if you have a very, very close, you know, mixed sex, like very social work environment, then maybe it could happen that way. But basically, what happens is that you have continued exposed proximity to each other in a group, and that allows a lot of comfort and trust to be built so that when so that when you make a move, there's already a lot like there's really fertile ground for something to happen and to happen really great and really quickly in a way that's much better than if you didn't know each other at all and you just had to make a move. Okay. But again, that is not typical. That's a typical situation. And in general, you are going to, you don't want to ever operate like that. And I would argue, like, in those environments, the only reason that you wouldn't go immediately, like a work environment or like even like a big friend environment when you're younger, is just because of the social context around it. That like, there's more social stakes, so there's a slower simmer. But I want to make it clear that there's usually desire in the background, always with this already. This is different than breaking out of the friend zone, by the way. It's kind of related to one kind of breaking out of the friend zone, where like if this goes on too long, she might start to frame you as just a friend permanently. But there is a type of friend zone where the issue is you're just beneath the desire threshold. So you do a little bit more things that create desire, pulling back, less investment, time investment if you're spending too much time with her, then you can make it happen. Typically, though, trying to become friends with a woman first is just suicide. It's absolutely suicide. Especially if a girl's giving you signals that she's interested, you go after her. Let her know you are male and driven by to a degree biological imperatives for domination and coupling. Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying basically. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It does like you can kind of get away with it in your very early years if it's happening in a social dynamic. But as an adult, like the older you get, the more lame you seem, basically. So unless there's some social intermediating factor, don't ever do it. And even then, you can't like it's just a matter of timing. You still got to make your move. You're just simmering a little bit longer because of the nature of the social dynamics. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. If you like COVID Cabal is tonight, 2 p.m. Eastern. So I'll see you there. Different channel, by the way, COVID Cabal channel. I'll see you there. Take care, guys.